So annoying.
I know, it's the worst.
Well, today we're diving deep into a webinar that's all about tackling those fears. It's called The Coaching Blueprint. Break into coaching. What are you scared of?
That's such a great topic for a webinar. I'm excited to dive in.
Me too. It's interesting how this webinar starts off by acknowledging, why coaching even appealed to people in the first place.
Right.
They highlight things like making a difference, that flexibility we talked about, and using your own personal growth journey to help others. But then they don't shy away from, the fear part.
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that.
They actually polled the attendees about their biggest obstacles, and guess what? Fear was a huge one.
Makes sense. It really is this, tug of war between, I can do this, and wait, what if I can't? But what I find so fascinating is that they don't just leave people hanging with their anxieties. They actually get into the science of why we get so scared.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I know, right?
So what did they say?
Well, they talk about that primal fight, flight, or freeze response. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, when we step outside of our comfort zone, let's say trying to become a coach, our brain often interprets that as danger.
Ah, that makes sense.
Which explains why so many people kind of hit a wall before they even start.
Totally.
They get stuck in those limiting beliefs, those I'm not qualified enough or nobody will hire me thoughts.
Oh, I know those thoughts all too well.
Don't we all? But here's where the coaching blueprint gets really tactical. They actually debunk some of the biggest myths that keep aspiring coaches stuck in fear mode. Like myth number 1, you need to be a certified expert to start.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely heard that one before.
It's that feeling of needing some fancy degree or years of experience to even think about calling yourself a coach. But I'm curious, did they talk about any other qualifications or skills that might be valuable in coaching?
They did. The coaching blueprint emphasizes that while expertise in a specific area can be helpful, it's not the only thing that matters. They said what matters more are qualities like empathy, active listening skills, and, a genuine passion for helping others.
I love that. So it's not just about what you know, it's about who you are and how you connect with people, right?
Exactly. In fact, they argue that your own lived experiences and the lessons you've learned along the way can be super valuable assets.
That's really reassuring for anyone who feels, intimidated by the whole expert label.
For sure.
Okay, so what about myth number 2?
Myth number 2 is a big one. There's too much competition.
Ugh, yes. I can see how that would make someone think, why even bother? Especially with social media making it seem like everyone and their dog is offering coaching these days. Did the webinar offer any strategies for, navigating this perceived competition?
They did. Instead of focusing on being the loudest voice in a crowded space, the coaching blueprint stresses the importance of finding your niche.
Okay, now, for those who might not be familiar with, coaching lingo, can you explain what niche means in this context?
Sure. Your niche is your specific area of focus within the broader field of coaching. It's basically identifying the particular group of people you're best equipped to serve.
Got it.
And the unique value that you bring to the table. For example, instead of being a generic life coach, you might specialize in coaching, say, entrepreneurs or creatives or people going through career transitions.
So it's about getting laser focused on a specific target audience and tailoring your services to their needs and challenges.
Exactly. And the webinar actually gave some compelling examples of new coaches who found success by tapping into their passions and experiences to carve out a niche for themselves.
Oh, that's great.
It helps you stand out in a crowded market, but it also allows you to work with clients you genuinely connect with, which, let's be real, makes the whole coaching process more enjoyable for everyone involved.
Absolutely. Okay, now I'm curious about that third myth. What was it?
Myth number 3 is coaching is all about giving advice.
Interesting.
This is a common misconception, but the coaching blueprint made it clear that effective coaching is not about telling people what to do.
That makes sense.
It's about guiding them to discover their own solutions.
Right, because people are ultimately responsible for their own choices and actions. So what does this guiding actually look like in practice? Did they give any examples?
They did. They highlighted techniques like asking powerful questions, questions that prompt reflection.
Oh, I like that.
And actively listening to understand the client's perspective and just holding space for them to explore their own thoughts and feelings without judgment.
So instead of being a guru with all the answers. A coach is more like a skilled facilitator, someone who helps clients unlock their own inner wisdom, right?
Exactly. And they emphasize that this approach is way more empowering, and it leads to more sustainable results.
I can see that.
Because when people arrive at their own solutions, they're more likely to own them and take action.
Okay, so we've busted some myths about coaching, but let's say you're still feeling that fear, that inertia holding you back.
It can be tough to overcome.
What's the antidote? Where do you even begin to move past that?
Well, this is where the coaching blueprint introduces the power of momentum.
Okay, tell me more about this momentum. What does that even mean in this context?
So they argue that taking action, even if it's small or imperfect, is the key to overcoming fear and building confidence. It's about shifting from overthinking and planning to actually doing something. Anything, really, that moves you forward.
So it's not about waiting for the perfect moment or having everything figured out before you start.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
They actually encourage what they call messy action.
Messy action.
It's about taking steps, even if they feel kind of haphazard or unplanned. The idea is that any forward movement, no matter how small, creates a ripple effect. It builds momentum that propels you further along your path.
Okay, I love that. It takes the pressure off of having, the perfect website, the perfect elevator pitch, the perfect everything before you even dip your toes in the water. So did the webinar offer any concrete examples of what this messy action could look like for an aspiring coach?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
One suggestion was reaching out to people in your existing network, like friends, family, colleagues, and just having conversations with them about their goals and challenges.
Oh, that's a great starting point.
Right.
It's low pressure, it lets you practice your listening and questioning skills, and it could even lead to some early clients or referrals.
Exactly. They also emphasize the importance of creating a basic online presence, even if it's just like a simple LinkedIn profile or a one-page website. The point is to start putting yourself out there, even if it feels a bit rough around the edges. They actually included a really inspiring story in the webinar.
Okay, so we've established that taking action, even messy action, is key. But I'm dying to hear that inspiring story you mentioned. Did the webinar notes include any details about what happened?
So the specific details weren't in the notes, but the gist was that someone took a chance, put themselves out there in a small way, and ended up exceeding their own expectations. It really highlighted how you don't have to wait for perfect conditions or a foolproof plan to get started.
I love those leap of faith stories. It's a good reminder that sometimes the scariest part is just taking that first step. But once you do, amazing things can happen. But let's be real, even with those inspiring examples, fear doesn't just magically vanish, right?
Yeah, it can be a real struggle.
What did the coaching blueprint suggest for those moments when self-doubt creeps back in? How do you actually deal with that?
Well, that's where their inertia-breaking toolkit comes in.
Ooh.
A toolkit?
It's packed with practical strategies to help you stay motivated and, move through those inevitable moments of fear or uncertainty.
Okay, that sounds helpful. What kinds of tools are we talking about here? What's in this toolkit?
Well, they start with, a foundation of mindset work. They encourage starting each day with affirmations.
Affirmations.
Specifically ones designed to address those negative self-talk patterns that often come up.
Yeah.
They even provided some examples in the webinar. But what I found really powerful was the emphasis on customizing these affirmations to your own specific fears and doubts.
Right, so it's not just about repeating generic feel-good phrases.
No.
It's about really digging into those beliefs that are holding you back and crafting affirmations that directly challenge them.
Exactly.
Did the toolkit include any other mindset tools?
Yes. They also advocated for journaling. Oh, journaling.
As a powerful way to process your fears and identify the stories you might be telling yourself, they actually provided some specific journaling prompts. But what I found particularly helpful was their suggestion to actually, question the validity of your fears.
That's a good one. So instead of just letting fear run wild, you're putting it on trial, examining the evidence, and often realizing it's not as solid or rational as it initially seemed.
Right. And once you've kind of identified and questioned those fears, the toolkit then guides you through a process of reframing your mindset. They suggested asking yourself, how can I turn this fear into curiosity? Or what opportunity might this challenge be presenting?
Oh, I like that. So it's about shifting from seeing fear as a stop sign to seeing it as a potential springboard for growth?
Exactly. And once you've done that inner work, the toolkit then moves into more action-oriented tools, and visualization is a key one.
Visualization, okay.
They emphasize the importance of Like vividly imagining yourself succeeding as a coach, feeling those emotions associated with that success, and really embodying that confidence.
It's like mental rehearsal for the real thing. I can see how that would help build belief and reduce anxiety. Anything else in this toolkit that you found particularly helpful?
One of the most emphasized tools was accountability. They stressed how having a supportive community or even just one accountability partner can make a huge difference, especially when those inevitable moments of doubt creep in.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's much easier to stay motivated and on track when you have someone to cheer you on, hold you accountable, and, just remind you of your why when you're tempted to give up.
hmm
Did the webinar offer any tips on how to actually find or build that support system?
Oh, they had several suggestions, like joining a coaching community or finding a mentor who's already walked the path you're on, or even just enlisting, like a supportive friend or family member who believes in your vision.
Yeah.
They emphasize that having that external support can really help you stay focused, overcome challenges and just celebrate your wins along the way.
It's interesting how the coaching blueprint really seems to address both the practical and the emotional side of becoming a coach. Because let's face it, making a career change like this is a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
And it's bound to trigger a whole roller coaster of emotions.
For sure. And they acknowledged that. They talked about the emotional cycle of change and how it's totally normal to experience a mix of excitement, fear, doubt, everything in between.
Okay, for those of us who might not be familiar with this emotional cycle of change, can you break that down a bit? What does it actually look like?
So it often starts with like a honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
That initial excitement and motivation when you first envision this new path.
Mhm.
But then as the reality of the change sets in, you might experience some resistance, maybe some doubt, and you might even be tempted to go back to your comfort zone.
Yeah, totally. I've definitely experienced that honeymoon phase, crash landing in other areas of my life.
It happened.
So what comes after that dip in motivation? What's the next phase?
That's where things get really interesting. The coaching blueprint emphasized that it's in that messy middle, that part where you're feeling kind of uncertain or even discouraged, that true growth actually happens. It's about pushing through those uncomfortable feelings, experimenting, learning from your mistakes, and eventually emerging on the other side with like a greater sense of clarity and confidence. And finally, you reach a point of integration where this new way of being becomes more natural and sustainable.
Okay, so it's not about expecting to feel excited and confident all the time. It's about recognizing that those dips in motivation are normal.
Right.
And that pushing through them is what ultimately leads to, real transformation. Did the coaching blueprint offer any strategies for navigating those low points, those moments when you're feeling stuck or discouraged?
They did. They really stressed the importance of self-care,
Yes.
making sure you're taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally.
Yeah.
They also reminded participants to connect with their support system, those people who can offer encouragement and perspective. And finally, they emphasized the importance of revisiting your why.
Your why.
Right? Like the deeper reason you started this journey in the first place.
I love that. It's about having those anchors.
Yeah.
Self-care, support, and purpose.
Yeah.
To help you weather the storms and stay connected to your vision. Okay, so we've covered the mindset tools, the action steps, the emotional support. What was the big takeaway? What did the coaching blueprint leave people with at the end of the webinar?
The webinar ended with a call to action. They urged participants to set a tangible goal that they could achieve within the next 48 hours, something actionable that they could do right away to build momentum.
So no more procrastinating or waiting for the perfect time.
Exactly. It was about taking that first step, no matter how small, and proving to yourself that you're serious about this coaching dream.
What kind of goal did they suggest? Did they give any specific examples?
They did. They said, reach out to 3 people who might benefit from coaching.
Okay, so not necessarily like signing clients right away, but just having those initial conversations,
Right.
practicing those coaching skills, maybe planting some seeds that could lead to future opportunities. What a great way to start taking action without getting overwhelmed.
Yeah, exactly. It's a low-stakes way to kind of test the waters, see how it feels to step into the role of a coach, and potentially get some valuable feedback.
Yeah.
They also hinted that taking this action often sparks a ripple effect,
Oh, interesting.
leading to unexpected opportunities or connections that you wouldn't have found otherwise.
Did the webinar offer any insight into what happened after people took that step? Did anyone share their experiences?
Unfortunately, the notes don't mention any specific follow-up stories, but they did say that taking action, even in this small way, often leads to a shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Like it helps people see things differently.
So it's not just about checking a box on your to-do list.
No.
It's about proving to yourself that you're capable of taking action, building confidence, and opening yourself up to those possibilities. I'm curious, did they offer any additional support or resources for those who, took that leap of faith and wanted to keep going on their coaching journey?
They did. They ended by talking about their full coaching blueprint program, which they presented as like a really comprehensive resource for aspiring coaches.
Okay, for those of us who might be new to the coaching world, can you give us a little rundown of what this coaching blueprint program is all about? Like what makes it stand out? What's special about it?
What's really unique about the coaching blueprint is that it's not just like a random collection of tips and tricks. They've created a structured roadmap that guides you through the entire process of becoming a successful coach.
Roadmap.
From, defining your niche to attracting clients and building a sustainable business.
So it's more than just a quick fix or a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. They emphasize how they've taken a very intentional approach, breaking down the whole process into like manageable modules that build on each other.
I'm curious, what are some of the key elements of this roadmap? Did they give any specific examples of the modules or topics they cover?
Yeah, they touched on a few key components in the webinar.
Oh, good.
One that stood out was focused on niche identification.
Okay.
They actually guide you through a process of identifying your ideal client, clarifying your unique value proposition, and positioning yourself in a way that attracts the right people.
That's so important. It's like we talked about earlier, finding your niche is essential for standing out and making sure you're working with clients you really enjoy. What other modules did they highlight?
Another one was about crafting your coaching packages and pricing your services.
Pricing, yes. That's always a tricky one.
They acknowledge that this can be a big sticking point for new coaches.
Makes sense.
So they provide specific strategies and templates to help you create like really compelling offers that resonate with your ideal clients.
That's incredibly helpful. It's one thing to have the skills, but it's a whole other thing to actually build a viable business out of it.
Exactly. And they also emphasize that the program goes beyond just the business basics. They actually provide training on effective coaching techniques,
Nice.
communication skills, and how to create a really transformative experience for your clients.
So it's a holistic approach that covers both the inner game of coaching and the outer game of actually building a practice?
Yes, exactly.
I'm impressed. Did they mention anything about community support or mentorship within the program?
Oh yeah, they did. They emphasized how the coaching blueprint is not just a self-paced online course. They've created a whole supportive community where participants can connect with each other, share their experiences, ask questions, get feedback. They also mentioned that they offer group coaching calls and personalized support from experienced mentors.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's like having a built-in cheerleading squad and a team of experts in your corner guiding you every step of the way.
Exactly. They really stress that the program is designed to be a supportive and encouraging environment. So aspiring coaches can feel confident and empowered to take those leaps of faith.
I'm definitely sensing a theme here. It seems like the coaching blueprint is all about empowering people to overcome those fears, step into their potential, and create a fulfilling career, doing what they love.
You got it. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so compelling. It's not just about coaching. It's about tapping into our own inner courage and resilience and realizing that we're capable of so much more than we often give ourselves credit for.
Beautifully said. Okay, I think we need to take a quick pause here, but don't worry, we'll be right back to wrap up our deep dive into the coaching blueprint. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, ready to finish up our deep dive into the coaching blueprint.
Absolutely.
It's really impressive how this webinar managed to pack so much useful stuff into such a short time.
I agree.
We've talked about practical strategies, mindset shifts, even emotional support, all designed to help people, break free from that fear and actually pursue their coaching dreams.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool how they tied everything back to that simple but powerful call to action.
Oh, yeah. The one about reaching out to those 3 people.
Exactly. It's such a smart way to bridge the gap between just thinking about coaching and actually doing it.
Totally. And I think it speaks to this larger point that the coaching blueprint keeps making.
Which is?
That action is the best way to beat fear.
So true.
It's not about waiting for the perfect moment or having all the answers figured out beforehand. It's about just taking that first step and trusting that, things will unfold as you go.
I love that. Just go for it.
Right.
And remember, this action isn't just about finding clients right away. It's about really stepping into that role of a coach, like getting comfortable asking those powerful questions and flexing your listening skills.
Yeah. It's about gaining experience and building that confidence through, real interactions.
Exactly.
So even if those conversations don't turn into paying clients immediately, they're still super valuable, right?
Absolutely. Each interaction gives you a chance to kind of refine your
Oh,
approach,
that's a good point.
get more clarity about who your ideal client really is, and just build that foundation of confidence that's going to help you so much moving forward.
Okay, so what about someone listening who's thinking, this all sounds great, but what if I try it and I realize, coaching just isn't for me? What would you say to them?
I would say that that's exactly why taking that initial action is so important.
Oh, interesting.
It's about experimentation, not about being perfect.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it's about giving yourself permission to just explore this path without feeling like you have to nail it from the get-go.
Right. Like, what's the worst that could happen? You learn something new.
Exactly. And who knows? You might surprise yourself with how much you actually enjoy coaching.
That's so true. It's not like you're making a lifelong commitment right away.
No way.
It's more about dipping your toes in the water, seeing how it feels. And even if you end up deciding that coaching isn't the right fit for you, the skills you develop along the way, like active listening, empathy, communication, those are valuable no matter what you do.
Absolutely. This whole conversation isn't just for aspiring coaches,
That's a great point.
It's for anyone who feels stuck or scared or unsure about taking a leap of faith, whether it's in their career, relationships, personal growth, whatever. The things we've talked about, facing your fears, reframing your mindset, taking action, and finding that supportive community, those are tools that everyone can use.
Such a good reminder. Okay, so for those who are feeling inspired to learn more about the coaching blueprint and see if this path is right for them, we've got a link to their website in the show notes.
Perfect.
They've got all the info about their program, their community, and all the cool resources they offer.
Awesome. As we wrap up this deep dive, I keep thinking about how the coaching blueprint isn't just a program. It's more like a whole philosophy.
I like that.
It's about giving people the tools and the confidence to embrace their unique talents and make a positive difference in the world.
Beautifully put. And it leaves me with this question for everyone listening. What's one action, no matter how small, that you can take today to get a little closer to the life you really want? Remember, messy action is better than no action at all.
Couldn't agree more.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those dreams alive.